Hello, Notre Dame fans. Welcome into the Notre Dame football show from blueandgold.com. I am Ashton Pollard here today to talk a little fall camp and some recruiting toward the end. But first, I am joined, as always, by our recruiting insider, Mike Singer, as well as our football analyst, Tim Hyde. What is up, everyone? How are we? Mike, you can go first. How are you?
I'm good. I remember telling my wife, I was like, oh, August is a dead period. I'm not really traveling a ton. It's been bat poop crazy this month so far. But
Thank you for censoring your language.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I often don't, but yeah, so it's doing all right. How you doing, Tim?
Well, I'm doing great. I mean, it's been exciting reading about camp, what's happening. It's interesting in that we haven't heard too much about the quarterbacks. So I think that's been the biggest thing. And it seems like we've been talking about everything but the quarterbacks, but maybe that's because of Freeman and Reese are hiding that from the media, it sounds like, out there. So we'll find out. We'll find out in a couple of weeks in Columbus.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate to say it's being hidden a little bit. There's very little being given away from those two, as well as from the portions of practice, at least, that we were able to see. So before we dive in, make sure that you like the page, subscribe to this page. If you're listening back via podcast, obviously leave us a review and a rating. We'll start with our first segment that we always do. Mike, what are you drinking tonight?
This whole bottle.
Panicked.
The whole bottle.
I mean, that's fair.
Or just this glass. I got this in Key West.
That's the southernmost point glass, isn't it? That's the little
So when I travel, I always try to get a deck of cards and a whiskey glass from that place. So
kind of cool.
Got the whiskey glass, and yeah, I'm going to finish this bottle. Thank you, Two Tigers, for the... I won't finish this bottle. Maybe.
You might.
We'll see. Check in with me in a little bit.
We'll see what happens. Tim, how about you?
I'm just going pure New England, just doing a little Sam Adams tonight. My Two Tigers is down on the counter down below. I'll do a little post-game celebration with that later on. So
there you go. I'm not drinking, but I am drinking water out of this 2017 football schedule cup, which is kind of fun. Yeah, no, it was good. I'm looking back at the schedule. I didn't really put this together until I was sitting here, and I was like, oh yeah, that is the schedule cup. But anyways,
10-3 year.
I believe so, yes.
That's the LSU Bowl game there.
Yes, it was. I was at that game. It was 54 and raining in Orlando, which was not ideal. My cousin came with me, who is not a Notre Dame fan. She's a Virginia Tech fan, but was like, I'll just go because, at the very least, I can get a tan. And then it was 54 and raining, and she wore a parka. So, good times. I mean, I had fun for obvious reasons.
Virginia Tech's your favorite school?
Big Virginia Tech fan. Really hope none of my Virginia Tech family is watching this right now. Anyways, we're going to move along before I get into that rant. All right. So other segment that we always start with is the best thing that we saw this week. If you are new to the show or the podcast, it's just something related to Notre Dame. It could be football. It could be something else. But Tim, I'll start with you. What was the best Notre Dame thing that you saw this week?
Well, it's actually the video you guys posted today. I mean, there's been some great videos over the weekend and whatnot of a lot of great watching a lot of the players. But today it was just alignment. So it was nice to see some of the linemen in action, the O-line, D-line, and about a few seconds. I mean, the one thing when I was watching this, and I just want everyone, people always talk about Harry Heastand and the O-lines that he's had at Notre Dame and whatnot. This play right there, just go back a millisecond. The one thing about Harry is his O-linemen are so low. It is, if you just pause it on the snap, that's Blake Fisher and Josh Legg. You guys, I mean, you've been around them, Ashton, at practice. They're tall.
Oh, they're massive.
They're massive.
Yeah,
they're
huge.
So low. Their backs are flat. Look at Blake Fisher. Blake Fisher is not a little guy. And they are so low to the ground. And it's funny, I was message board with people last night, and I said they're like a snake just getting ready to coil out and attack you. They are so low, so wound up. It was just exciting to watch some double team drills here. So I got a kick out of that, and it's just getting ready. One more day closer to getting ready for Columbus. Is this O line's going to get after it in that game? I'm expecting.
That was kind of a unintentional pun there. The kick out, you got a kick out of that, like a kick out block.
I love it. There's Rocco.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it was just nice watching these guys, but just the fundamentals that Harry has. I mean, they're so low. It's night and day to what it's been the last few years. Just watching the guys' stances. And
Tim with a subtle shot at Jeff Quinn.
No subtle shot. Just people always ask about the difference.
Aggressive shot, not subtle.
But people always ask about the differences, and I think that's a big one. It starts with the stance. He has his guys so damn low. Excuse my French. Like, it's crazy.
All right, Tim. I have a quick. Oh, let me see. I'm sorry for podcast audience. This is more for those on YouTube. Tim, you see Emile Wagner back there.
Yes.
What do you think about his frame so far? He's just got to Notre Dame a couple months ago. What have you thought about Emile Wagner so far?
Man, me and you've talked about him a long time ago. Just like, he looks like a tight end out there with his athleticism, watching his high school film. And I actually paused it and I was like, oh, there's Wagner. This dude, man, he is when this guy hits 300 pounds, he's going to be ready to rock and roll here in about 2 years once those two big bookends are gone. But he looks good. I mean, everyone's talking about it. Can he pack on the weight? You just look at that frame, look at those arms. Yeah, he's going to pack it on with Matt Balis here in the next couple of years. I'm excited to watch him play.
All right. Sorry, Ashton. I hope we're not derailing you too much.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, Tim, I told you this, but I thought about you while making this video because for those of you that don't know, we're allowed 3 minutes of video out of practices. And typically we're only there for about 30 minutes through the first 5 periods. The first day we got to watch the whole thing, but we can only film through the first 5 periods. So it's primarily drills. So when I was putting this together earlier, I was kind of trying to figure out exactly what I wanted for my 3 minutes. And I was like, you know what? Notre Dame fans, there's nothing they love more than line play. And those are kind of the easiest drills to get, I would say, to film. They look the cleanest usually. So I was like, I'm just going to do all line and see what happens. And it seemed to be a hit. So
we lost Tim, by the way. Tim's gone. Tim.
Where is Tim? I was like, why'd you pull Tim off? But he literally fell off of the stream. Okay.
No, we'll wait. We'll wait. Oh, there's Tim. Tim's back.
There we go.
Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button, but no, I appreciate the video and whatnot.
All right, this is kind of turning into a segment. I haven't actually watched this yet. This is what I need. I just saw this. This young man, Gabriel Rubio, wearing that face mask. This is my favorite. He's up there now with Joe Alt and Steve Angeli now with Gabriel Rubio and his face mask. Quick side note, we haven't got a YouTube comment in a few minutes. Are we on, guys? Can you drop a comment real quick if you're watching live? But yes, Gabriel Rubio. When I was in high school, we called that the dookie stick. I don't know why. We just called it a dookie stick. Like you just when you have the bar going down the middle.
I feel like that would hurt your
eyes,
peripheral. I mean, I guess it's not peripheral because it's not the periphery, but the middle. I don't know.
I just
I'd be caught crossing my eyes at it, which. But I mean, I've never played football, so
good look at their number 65. That's Chris Smith, the Harvard transfer, and coaching him up there, Mike Moon, graduate assistant or analyst. It's hard to keep track. And then on the right there, you'd think that's Kurt Heinisch. No, it's Donovan Heinisch. Yeah, Heinisch brothers.
Yeah. Look at the posture, though, real quick, of Donovan. I mean, he's like a twin of his older brother. They look alike. And real quick on the bar, Mike McGlinchey wore that at ND. So he's rocking the bar down the face, which is some old school football there.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right. I guess I can go next because mine's kind of related to fall camp. And then Mike, yours goes a little bit outside. So we'll save you for last if that works. Mine is just the fact that Avery Davis, the wide receiver, is back, and also the way that the coaches are talking about him. So I asked both Marcus Freeman and Tommy Reese about kind of what Avery Davis, who, if you're not familiar, he's a 6th-year senior. He's played 4 different positions at Notre Dame. He's made 5 different position switches. He tore his ACL. He's been through a lot, basically. I was thinking about doing this for this segment prior to this tweet, but then Mike pulled this tweet up, which was a great idea. So kudos to you. But I asked both of them about him, and they both just like raved about him. They had an offensive meeting the other day, and they were talking about dependability. And the first person that Tommy Rees brought up was Avery Davis. I learned that from Marcus Freeman directly, and then I asked Rees about it on Saturday. So the next day, yeah. And Rees was like, I could sit here and talk for hours about Davis, and just like when you ask a coach, typically, like, especially at Notre Dame, they love all of the players and they love them on and off the field. But just the reaction that you get when they're talking about Davis, especially in this age where like Davis could have transferred pretty easily. He could have stopped playing football. He could have felt sorry for himself to a point where he quit and just thought this isn't working. But he stuck it out, does whatever the team needs him to do. And I don't know, I just think he deserves recognition. So that was mine. But
I've been calling him an NFL guy for a while. I think he's going to play in the NFL. And,
I hope he does.
I thought he was great last year.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like Rees brought it up. Whenever you ask him to do something, he does it. Like the Clemson long pass, like that sent it into, I believe that was double overtime, not first overtime. But regardless, same point stands. I don't know. Guys, especially these days when it's so easy to transfer or quit or do whatever, I commend him for sticking it out, especially when he was doing things that he didn't necessarily want to do. He was a high-level Elite 11 quarterback, and they're like, you're going to play running back, and you're not going to see the field. And he's like, okay, I get, like, I don't know. I could talk about him forever, like Tommy Rees, but any comments on that, or you want
to me, he seems like a New England Patriots receiver that, like you're Julian Edelman. Like that is him to me. Like
plot.
Like he's just that kind of bring your lunch pail to work kind of guy. I don't know. I love Avery Davis. Like Ashton, he's probably the easiest guy to root for on the team. But I mean, that's kind of
I mean, I don't want to say that there's. I mean, I really can't think of anybody that's not pretty easy to root for. But when you watch Davis, just because of everything that he's been through, I think it's very easy. Yeah.
I was going to say real quick, you mentioned the Pats. I mean, the first thing I think about with Avery Davis is Matthew Slater with the Patriots, longtime special teamer, team captain for Belichick for a decade. That's a Avery Davis little comparable right there. Is type of a person he is, a leader he is, player, teammate, all those good things that come with him. So, Avery Davis, man, you're right. He's the guy who's played multiple positions, offense, defense. So kudos to him for coming back, and hopefully he's off and running here pretty soon.
Yeah, and then just lastly on him, I would say when they go through like the calisthenics and the stretching at the starts of these practices, they're typically in like 8 to 12-ish lines, and whoever's leading the line is typically a pretty good indicator of who might be named a captain or who at least is like in contention for it. And Davis is up there, and then on the offensive side, it's also been Patterson and Lugg. So I know that because I was watching the offense the other day. The rest of them were defensive players. I admittedly don't remember all of them, but you can probably guess. But yeah, Davis has been up there, so I think he's pretty much a surefire captain, especially after last year. Yep. All right, Mike, best thing you saw this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Josh here. Josh says Tim's the best dressed man in the business. So my best thing I saw was Tim Hyde. No, I'm kidding. Tim, you are great. But yeah, I just like that comment though. The best thing for me was Notre Dame number 5 in the coaches poll. I thought that was fairly interesting. Let me read this tweet here from the Notre Dame football PR team. It's the highest preseason coaches poll ranking for Notre Dame since 2006, when Notre Dame was number 3 heading into that season. Also marks the 4th straight year the coaches pick Notre Dame in the top 10. And that's the best streak since 8 straight from 89 to 96. That's pretty good, run there, obviously. Tim, I was just curious your thoughts on the, Notre Dame being number 5. Is that too high or too low or just right for you? What do you think?
Well, I mean, we'll find out around midnight on the 3rd where it goes. But it's funny. I was watching some of the other, some shows on, podcasts and things of that nature. You're talking about the preseason and whatnot. And the top 3 are the big 3. And then after that, it's like flip a coin for the next 6 or 7. So I think Notre Dame's in that bunch. But it also, being 4 years in a row in the top 10 shows what Marcus Freeman's walking into. I mean, this is a program ready to roll, a lot of experience, a lot of really good football players all over the place. Sure, there's a few question marks, as we know, but it's a great spot to go into, and that game's going to be super hyped now when you get two top 5 programs going at it there in Columbus. That's going to be electric, and it was exciting. It was exciting to see them, that highly ranked. So I think Notre Dame's going to have a heck of a football team this year. So I expect them to win a lot of football games.
Yeah, obviously the coaches poll is fairly irrelevant because it means nothing for the college football playoff committee, but it does kind of like give, it's something. It's something for us to pay attention to until that. And I think if the college football committee were saying that they weren't paying attention to the coaches poll before their rankings, I think they'd be lying, So it kind of gives at least a benchmark. So I don't know.
I'm kind of sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was giving it to you. So that's perfect.
Okay. I was gonna say, Joe Bro just put this in the comments that I think that says shouldn't be ranked until October. Like I assume that means anybody. I tend to agree with that. I don't think you really know until people get into conference play, because you have these marquee matchups, your Notre Dame, Ohio State, your Ohio State, Oregon last year, like take your pick of whatever, Alabama, Texas this year. But typically it's kind of one game and then a couple of fluff games. So I think it's hard to really determine exactly where anybody falls until you get into conference play. That being said, Mike, to your point, I think the playoff committee does look at this, and you'll see they do it with group of 5 teams. They'll start them kind of low because the AP poll or the coaches poll hasn't quite caught on, and they kind of use that as a metric to not bump them up. And we can talk about whether or not that's fair or not. But yeah, so no, I agree. And I think 5 is probably about right. I don't know. Clemson, I believe, is at 4. I think Notre Dame and Clemson could be on this. If their offense clicks, they're going to be better than Notre Dame, but I think they could be on the same kind of playing field. I think having Notre Dame obviously behind Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia is right. But if you told me Notre Dame was 5th versus 8th, I'd be like, sure, sounds about right. I don't know. Again, I don't know how much this means. So anyways.
I was about to say, before we move on from the best thing, Jay Chillin, great comment here. This was in consideration for me. He says the best thing I saw, or funniest thing, was watching the Notre Dame players doing karaoke skits to Living on a Prayer. So Bon Jovi was at Notre Dame's practice over the weekend, Sunday or something, Ashton? Yeah, so his son used to play for Notre Dame. His name is Jesse. They came back. I don't know what the occasion was that they came back for, but they came back, hung out at practice. But yeah. And did you want to keep? I can explain. Steve Angeli, maybe his quarterbacking is better than his singing. Sure. But Christian Gray, Notre Dame's cornerback commit in the 23 class, he responded. And
so funny.
Wasn't that fantastic?
It's absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen this, so basically John Bon Jovi, I forget exactly what he said at the beginning, but he basically just handed it over to the Notre Dame football players, and they all sang Living on a Prayer, but they had headphones on. So there's no music playing. So they're singing a cappella, although they're listening to the music, but some of them are god awful. Maris Leofel's actually pretty decent, which is interesting. But then Christian Gray, who's a 2023 cornerback commit, responded with a minute and 20 seconds of him just belting out Living on a Prayer in the back of his car. And it's hilarious. If you haven't watched it, look it up. I laughed out loud at it. Yeah, Mike just pulled it up. There you go. So yeah, Bon Jovi's just there at the beginning and then brings in a bunch of players. And I thought what was kind of fun about this too was it's not just your star player. You had
Jaden Thomas.
Yeah, you had Jaden Thomas in there. You had Reno Monteforte. I believe it's Forte, not Forte, but sorry. He's a freshman walk-on long snapper. Everybody got involved with this, which was kind of fun. I feel like fits with the spirit of what Notre Dame's trying to do social media wise these days. So yep. All right. On that note, we will move back to a little bit of fall camp football talk, I guess. So as you know, and as if you joined late, obviously fall camp started on the 5th. So last Friday, in terms of what the media was allowed to see, we stayed for all of Friday practices. Was a little over 2 hours, I guess. But we couldn't film after the first 5 periods, which is typically just stretching and position drills. So the tape that we have is largely drills. There's not a lot I don't think there's really anything that we're allowed to see from scrimmage that we're allowed to tape. And then since then, we could see first 5 periods Saturday and Monday. So we actually literally got kicked out before they did anything from scrimmage. But yeah, I can just, since I was present, I can kind of just talk about what it's been like. It's been hot as heck. Just absolutely everybody's just sweating profusely, as you may have read on blueandgold.com. And if not, you should check it out. Blake Fisher and Zeke Correll had to leave a little early on Friday because of heat exhaustion, which Marcus Freeman kind of brought up in his inaugural press conference on Friday. It was just like, these guys got to be ready. And they seemed to hear the message loud and clear, because to my knowledge, nobody has been pulled out for that reason since then. But yeah, I can throw it over to Tim. I know we're just going to kind of have a back and forth conversation here. Tim, you've watched a lot of the film and read a lot of the articles. Who stuck out to you initially?
Well, for me, it's been, just reading about and hearing about Riley Mills. I know he was just a big, obviously he's played a lot his first 2 seasons, but can he be a true, he's 290 pounds weighed in at, so can he be a true DN, dominate that? He's going to be the wide side defensive end with Foskey playing the boundary in their scheme, what they do. So the fact that he's having a nice early camp, dominating the edge is huge for Notre Dame, especially going that big first game where they have 2 massive tackles, just like Notre Dame does. So I think for me, it's been Mills, just, it's just opening up Foskey. Foskey's such a big part of this team this year, just, sacks and the pressures, getting him ready for the NFL. So that's been exciting. And then a couple of things on the freshman. Mickey is absolutely fast as could be. Some of the videos I've seen of him, he is way faster than I ever thought.
He's allegedly the fastest defensive player on the team, with the fastest offensive player being Tobias Merriweather.
Seriously, some of his, just how quick Mickey is nice. And I'm a California guy, so him, and I got to go with his brethren, Junior Tulialamaka, who just keeps getting praised. I know Golden had a lot of great stuff to say about him, and the linebackers have as well. So really excited for those 2 freshmen. It looks like they're going to play some this year, which is great.
Yeah, and then on the offensive side of the ball, who's kind of stuck out to me, and I know Tim's a big fan too, but Audric Estime, the running back, basically, if you're not familiar with kind of who he is and his body type, he's 5'11" and 230 pounds. So he's your goal line, Jerome Bettis-esque fullback body type, that sort of thing. But what we've learned in the last 6 or so months, going back to the spring, is he actually has really good hands, and his footwork is really impressive. And we saw that on display. Again, this was Friday, so after we had to turn the cameras off, but we were allowed to watch, there were a couple of plays where I looked at Tyler Horka, my colleague, and I was like, I don't think he's been stopped prior to a 7-yard gain on any of these carries. He's running over people because he has that body type, but he's also his footwork's, he's making people miss. I don't believe I saw any passes thrown to him. I could be wrong because I was primarily watching the defense, but it was hard not to see Estime running. So Milton Fan said Estime has crazy footwork. Confirmed. He absolutely does. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Beck. So he stuck out to me, as well as Tobias Merriweather on the offensive side. Wide receiver, obviously the only one that Notre Dame brought in the 2022 class, and they have 8 scholarship wide receivers, including him. So Freeman kind of talked about this on Friday, and Reese, I know, has been impressed with him too, but we see a lot of him because we have to, because they only have 8 scholarship wideouts. So I think Freeman, and this wasn't a comment on Merriweather at all, but a lot of the media was asking about him, and Freeman was like, yeah, you're seeing so much of him because we need him. We need bodies. Of course, Freeman then added, he's a freak athlete. He's super tall, super fast. Like I said, allegedly the fastest one on the team. And he looks that part. That's not to say he's perfect by any means. He is a freshman. I know on, I believe it was Saturday morning, I watched Chancey Stuckey kind of coaching him up about tucking the ball and making sure that he's not kind of swinging it around, because the Ohio State secondary is not going to let him swing it around. They're going to take it from him. So he's being coached properly, but he does look the part of your kind of twitchy boundary athletic receiver, I guess. And I can open it up to Tim or Mike if you guys have any comments, then we can talk some injuries and stuff too.
As far as Merriweather goes, I think this is I'm not surprised by any of this. This is exactly what I thought. I think he could be potentially a starting receiver for this team, if he came in the spring, but I still believe he's going to have a sizable impact on the team this season. I really do. So yeah, Tim, what are your thoughts on what me and Ashton are saying?
No, I was going to say, I mean, you've been talking about Tobias, for a year, Mike. So you've been on him and chatting about him since he's committed, even before he committed. So it's having a great camp, which is awesome. And for me, when we were talking before the show, yeah, I mean, Estime was my pick just because, we've been talking so much recruiting and 2023, all these 24 commits now flying through. Sometimes you just forget about, some of these youngsters, especially the sophomore class, because everyone wants to talk about the guys that are in, which are the true freshmen. But I went back and because I was watching him, he's wearing number 7. He does not look like Jerome Bettis at all. He's much smaller, thinned out. Everyone thinks you're right. He's some goal line, Robert Hughes, get 3 yards and things of that nature. I went back and rewatched his highlight film, and it's like, this dude's legit. So his high school film, I forgot how good he was because all we're doing is talking the future. And you go back and watch him, everybody go, get on Huddle and watch his highlight film.
Well, we're watching it right. This is senior film right now. We're watching on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be exciting. And I don't think he's just going to be a 3 yards, fall down, be a big lug whatsoever. The film and Ashton has seen him live. He's a lot bigger, faster, stronger than I think anyone really believes. So that's exciting moving forward.
So I just want to note right now for YouTube audience, this clip of him running down the field, that's against Bergen Catholic. So this was like the first game of the season. And I'm like, who is this Estime cat? Because Bergen Catholic had Steve Angeli, and I was watching that game online, like who, wanting to watch Angeli. And I'm not really paying attention when Angeli's not on the field because I don't have a reason to, but I'm seeing this number 2 run an 80-yard touchdown. Who the heck is this kid? He was committed to Michigan State. Notre Dame offered him like a week before signing day, was able to pull off the flip. Super Notre Dame fit. A fantastic young man, extremely bright. What about this comparison? Sorry, not Jerome Bettis. Leonard Fournette wearing the number 7. I saw a clip of him. I'm going to try to pull it up real quick, guys. You tell me he does not look like Leonard Fournette in this clip. Sorry, I don't know what you guys are seeing. I'm trying to pull this up real quick.
We are seeing Drew Pine.
Look at this beast. I mean, that looks like Leonard Fournette to me.
Yeah, he's huge.
Right?
I like that. I like that comparison there with the number 7. So that's, look at him. He's going to be fun to watch when he's going to be the number 2 going into
biceps. He could crack my head.
Yeah,
football.
If you aren't on Twitter, and it might be on Instagram too, but there have been a couple of Estime pictures that have come out that are just, you can't not notice just how absolutely massive he is. It's terrifying. Everything that Tim said, I agree with.
But real quick on that, Ashton,
yeah,
that's the thing. We see the pictures, him flexing and all that, and you just, he's just a big, strong, brawny guy. And then you go watch his film, and you're like, no, this dude's going to run you over and go fast. I mean, that film Mike just popped on is awesome to watch.
Yeah, no, for sure. I guess this is a decent segue because we're in the running back group. We can switch over to some injuries, maybe some return timelines really quickly that have come out. So Logan Diggs is kind of the big one that everyone has been watching. If you're not familiar, Logan Diggs is a rising sophomore running back who tore the labrum in his shoulder during the spring game and had surgery immediately after. So late April. Obviously that's better for a running back than a lower body injury, but he was out for a few weeks. I mean, I guess a couple of months during their late spring, summer workouts, but he is back and he is playing. However, has been in a red jersey the entire time, which is a non-jersey. So that's what the quarterbacks wear, but it's just the quarterbacks and him in terms of who's wearing those red jerseys for information. But he looks pretty good. And I know that a lot of his, I guess it's his trainer maybe putting the videos out, but he's been working on footwork a lot this offseason. His footwork works really good because obviously that's like kind of all that he could do. But largely he looks really good. His timeline originally that Marcus Freeman told Patrick Engel and Tyler Horcombe, my colleagues at Blue and Gold, told them that he would be back late September-ish. He might actually be back for Ohio State, but before you get super excited about that, if he did come back, it would be in a limited capacity. Marcus Freeman kind of characterized that he said full go with limited reps, which is a little bit oxymoron-ish. Basically what they're doing is Freeman doesn't want to ask them to come out and give 85% on a rep. He wants them to give 100% on a couple fewer reps, if that kind of makes sense, which I mean, I get that from a coach perspective. Like you don't want to ask your kids to go half in. You just want to have them go 100% on 3 reps versus 6 reps. And and the reason why that's another good segue actually. So Logan Diggs, Maris Leofau, Joe Wilkins, those 3 are doing limited reps right now. So Leofau is a linebacker. Wilkins is a wide receiver. Wilkins will definitely be out against Ohio State, while the other 2 could be in there, but again, probably in a more limited role. Can't go 0 to 100 really quickly. And then the other big injury thing was Joey Tanona, who was a 2022 offensive lineman. So he is a freshman. He enrolled early in January, and he actually was in a car accident. I believe it was in February, but somewhere in that timeline. And he had to medically retire because he's having a difficult time, which, I mean, sucks for this kid, obviously. Like, you just got there and now you can't play. But as Freeman said, bright side, he's going to get a degree from Notre Dame. So if you want to kind of take a positive out of that, it's that. But yeah, just kind of, again, sucks for him because he was a high-level recruit and showed up to play football at Notre Dame and isn't going to get that chance. But those are kind of my injury notes and what we got from that. I can turn it over. Tim or Mike, thoughts on any of those guys or what they do for their various position groups?
Yeah, I just want to comment on the Tanona, and I'll throw it over to Hyde, the Tanona news. The car accident was obviously a serious injury. I mean, he came in as on threes, number 63 overall player, number 3 interior offensive lineman. He was the first commit of the 2022 class in the summer before his junior year. I went to see him play when he was a junior, and he was playing center that game. They had an injury or a COVID their center was out to COVID, so Joey moved there, and I went to the Zionsville versus Avon game. So Blake Fisher was a senior and was playing a little bit of nose tackle in the goal line situation. So I got to see Joey Tanona stand up Blake Fisher a few times. Like, Tanona was not a big social media guy or anything like that, so he kind of flew under the radar. But man, one heck of a recruit. A fantastic young man to talk to, great family. And then he misses the All-American Bowl due to COVID. Just like, man, this kid can't get a break. Yeah. And then, the car accident, is just awful news that, he's never going to get to play football again. I guess never say never, but, at least at Notre Dame, his playing days are done. But he's the kind of the silver lining here is that he's still has that full ride scholarship to Notre Dame. So he gets that Notre Dame degree. What do we always talk about? If you were to get hurt, do you want to be at Notre Dame or Big State U? And that's often like that would never happen to me. Well, it did in Joey Tanona's case, and he's got that Notre Dame degree that he can now go after in a full ride. So that's kind of like the feel good part of it, but man, it's just crappy news for Tanona and also the Notre Dame football team because they're losing a really darn good player.
I was just gonna clarify because we got this question. We actually had this question, but to your point of never playing football again, so he cannot play football at Notre Dame. If he wants to transfer out and play elsewhere, he is technically allowed to under NCAA rules. Of course, I don't know his very personal health situation, but he is not allowed to play at Notre Dame anymore, but he could, in theory, play somewhere else should it be allowed, but allowed physically, health-wise, I guess. But we had that question, so I thought I'd address it really quickly too. Tim, any thoughts on that or any of the other injuries?
No, Mike said it perfect. I mean, it's just tough break. There's been whispers, obviously, all spring. It was mentioned. It's even brought up in some of the chats that we did and stuff like that. Some of the live shows people would always ask, but no one ever really knew. So Stinks. I mean, yeah, the car wreck sounds horrible. He survived. Wish him well. He's going to get a great degree. So you can't beat that, like Mike said. And that's been Marcus Freeman's message, right? Football's going to end sometime. So where do you want to be, as you guys were just talking as well? So it ended abruptly and way too soon, obviously. But wish Joey all the best, and hopefully he stays at Notre Dame, gets a great degree, and he's going to have a heck of a life moving forward. So good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll address David Solomon. Why couldn't he medical redshirt? I admittedly don't exactly know. I know that I say that he's allowed to play football again. I genuinely think that's probably not an option given how bad it was. That's my guess. That's a guess, and I want to make that clear. That's my guess as to why he didn't medical redshirt. It was so bad he couldn't go to class, and being at practice and being around loud music was not good. It was bad. So again, I'm not a doctor nor an expert on the NCAA rules of medical retirement versus redshirting. However, that is kind of a little bit of my guess.
The one thing real quick on that, Ashton, I think Patrick talked about it, where if he did redshirt, he counts against the roster, and
that is true. But I think if it was an option, I feel like Notre Dame would have found a way to get it. I don't think it was just we need a body, we need to remove someone from the roster. You're going to retire. I genuinely think that he was incapable of playing, and probably incapable of playing for a very long time. Yeah. Again, I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me on that, but that is my guess. Milton Fan with the super chat. So with these impressive recruiting classes, do you think the current staff has better success keeping talented players? Mike, I'll throw that to you.
All right, Milton, appreciate the super chat. I mean, the current staff, is full of just outstanding recruiters. You can't be on this staff and not value recruiting.
Yeah.
So much of recruiting is just effort. You can not be a great recruiter, but if you at least just try really hard, you're going to be okay. I still to this day don't think Del Alexander was as bad as everyone thinks he was. He worked at recruiting. He just was not he's just not a great personality for Notre Dame to go recruit in Southern California and recruit a lot of those big time receivers. So, but with to now answer your question, some of it's just out of their control. They literally got Keon Keeley's commitment. They got Peyton Bowen's commitment. They got Devin Moore's commitment last year. Amarion Walker. Do those guys stick? Do they flip? Some of it's just out of their control. I don't want to say NIL is a big factor because I can't comment on the inner workings of that specifics of recruitment, but Notre Dame is not going to be, can I say Texas A&M, and NIL? So there's just some things you can have the perfect recruiting approach, get a kid committed, and then he wants to stay close to home, be near his girlfriend. There's just some things you can't control. So I hope that answers your question, Milton Fan, but they're going to recruit better, in my opinion, and I think we're already seeing that. My sources in the Goog feel like this is Notre Dame's best class in a decade, and that 2013 class was really darn good. I think this is, since I've been covering Notre Dame, this is the farthest the Irish have been having a top 5 class this late in the recruiting cycle, if that makes sense. Typically they'll start off number 1, and then by start of the fall they're down to 8 or 9 or something. They're still at number 2 per the On3 consensus rankings. So recruiting is going to be better under Marcus Freeman, but keeping talented players, some of it's just out of their control.
So Mike, I'll add, Milton Fan just added there, speaking of players, leaving for the transfer portal after a year. They're not real, when you kind of look at it, they didn't lose top players really this offseason. You lost a couple of, I'm getting feedback on my side, so I don't know. I hope it's not.
It sounds good on my end. Sorry, Milton. I spent 3 minutes answering your question. It wasn't even
No, but that's a valid conversation topic too. But they're not really losing big time players. They're losing 3rd, 4th string guys who I'll use Flemister is an example. Like they're losing, and there's a little bit more to that story, but like they're losing guys who are probably not going to get a lot of playing time. You think about like Avery Davis, for example, he thought about leaving, either transferring or retiring, and he wanted to come play for Marcus Freeman. So I guess it's, from my point of view, at least, it's kind of a little too early to tell, but it kind of seems like, I mean, if you can talk about the current vibe around the program, plus you're bringing in CJ Carr, you're bringing in what we expect to probably be a top 5 class in 2023 ultimately, I think it certainly doesn't hurt. I don't know. Tim, do you want, or Mike, do you want to comment?
Yeah. Let me throw it. Let me real quick, and I'll throw it to Tim. There's no one entering the portal, at least I can think of, in the past couple years, that's like, whoa, he entered the portal.
Yeah.
Like other big time programs, yeah, there's that all the time. But with Notre Dame, it's like, oh, this 4-string DB entered the portal. You know, I feel like there's not been big shocks.
Yeah, it's not like Jahmyr Gibbs entering it at Georgia Tech, where like he is their clear star and he wants to go play at Alabama. Like you don't, and granted, obviously Notre Dame is closer to Alabama than Georgia Tech is. But that being said, you're not getting Michael Mayer trying to go play at Alabama. Like you're not getting first or second string quarterbacks. You're not getting these high level receivers that are like, oh, Saban's had so much success at Alabama, I want to go play as a receiver in that offense. You're largely keeping your Styles, your Colsey. Yeah, so that's my thought. Tim,
so Milton fan says Jordan Johnson,
but he didn't pan out as a recruit. Like I think he was sorry, Jordan Johnson, no offense, but I think that he was objectively overrated.
Yeah,
I don't know. Tim, thoughts?
No, real quick. I mean, Jordan went through an entire season, an entire spring, and can never crack the 2 deep. I mean, he was given 1,000 opportunities, to get on the field and didn't take advantage of them. So heck, he's at Central Florida, and he's played as much as us 3 combined. So, So I mean, he hasn't.
Sorry, Jordan Johnson.
But real quick on the question, the guy's talking about transfers. I'm going to say, yeah, there are going to be some transfers moving forward, because one thing, this class is going to be a top 5 class when it's all said and done. And then you're going to have 2024 is going to be bigger and better, I truly believe. I really do think it's going to be a better class, because history at Notre Dame, every single coach has had a better second class than he has a first class. I mean, Bob Davie had a top 5 class. Willingham's best class was his second class. Charlie Weiss had a string of 3 or 4 straight top 4s started with his second class. Lou Holtz had 4 straight number 1 classes started with his second class. So there's going to be some better football players coming in. And going to Mike and Ashton, the guys that transferred this year were the bottom of the roster guys. That Paul Malala, for example, injured, just never caught on. The best player left was George Takis, and he was still going to be the number 2 tight end as a 5th-year senior. So,
and he might have gotten jumped potentially, like especially if Mitch Evans didn't fracture his foot. Like that was very possible. Exactly. That's no disrespect to Takis, and I hope that he does well at Boston College. But his position, even as the number 2 tight end, was not final.
No, exactly. I mean, they're not going to. I mean, Junior Tuliamaka is not going to transfer because he's going to be playing a ton as a sophomore next year. So I think it's going to be constantly each and every year. We're going to see 10 guys transfer that are juniors, seniors, because I think Freeman is going to recruit like a son of a gun, and he's going to keep bringing in better football players. And the bottom of that roster is just going to keep flushing out, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I feel like we talk a lot about the offensive line, where you think, oh, are these guys that are second or third string offensive linemen going to leave? And it's like, they might, because they could start at 100 of the 130 FBS school. Like third string offensive linemen at Notre Dame can go start at X, Y, or Z, still Power 5 school. Like that's how good they are. So, I mean, you can't really blame it. You can talk about, oh, they should stay and be coached by Harry Heastan because he's Harry Heastan. And maybe some of them want to, but some of them just want to go play. And if you can play at a relatively high level, again, maybe not a national title contender, but if you can play at a Power 5 school and get some NFL looks, like I don't really blame you, frankly. Any other comments on that before we head into recruiting? Are we good? We're good? All right. Before we hop into our last segment, which is recruiting related, make sure that if you are watching right now, hit the thumbs up on this video, subscribe to our channel as Mike just plugged on the screen. Also, if you're listening back via podcast, leave us a review, preferably 5 stars if you don't mind. We love that. So, yep, James Lawrence Zensi, I think apologies if I did not pronounce your last name, but Dylan Gibbons left Notre Dame and started at Florida State. Good example. Thank you. All right.
And as a fifth-year senior. So it's not, he didn't leave as a sophomore. He's a fifth-year senior.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Good point. All right. Last segment has to do with Justin Scott, who, if you are unfamiliar with him, there are currently only 3 5-star recruits with On3. So that's not the On3 consensus, just On3. And Justin Scott is one of those 5. He is a lineman out of St. Ignatius, which is actually the alma mater of Patrick Engel from our site. It's outside of Chicago, up in, I believe it's in Evanston, but on the North Shore of Chicago. So yeah, he is the number 3 recruit according to On3 in the country, top defensive lineman, On3 consensus. And Mike popped this up on the screen for our YouTube audience, but On3 consensus, which is the 4 different recruiting sites combined, that average, he is the number 12 player overall and still number 1 defensive lineman. Again, both have him as a top player in Illinois. But Mike, you talked to him after he visited for the recruiting barbecue a couple of weeks ago, and subsequently put in a prediction for him to ultimately land at Notre Dame. Tell us why you felt that you could do that.
Tell you why. I mean, I had a really good conversation with him about it, combined with talking to sources on the Irish side of things, and folks in those offices, seem to believe, again, from what I'm told from sources, that Notre Dame is the team to beat for him. And also, like, St. Ignatius is a profile school for Notre Dame, and it's in the backyard of Chicago. Can I call Chicago the backyard? I mean, it's an hour and a half, but we'll call it the backyard.
Yeah, it's the same area. It's close enough.
Pete Chevrelli, former Notre Dame linebacker and the manager of the Chicago rock band. Kind of the cool note there. Went to St. Ignatius. Still very involved in that program. So, like, there's just a lot kind of logically that says Notre Dame looks really good here. So the logic, my conversation with Scott, and what I'm hearing from Notre Dame sources make me believe that this young man is trending towards the Irish. And Patrick Engel, obviously, like you mentioned, that's a huge connection. That's
the primary reason, actually. Yes.
We're good. So it doesn't have like a traditional offer list for a number 1 overall defensive lineman yet. I think his top offer is like Notre Dame, Michigan, LSU, but On3 is not going to rank a kid just he's got 50 offers in all the SEC. He must be a 5-star. Like, On3 is going to rank him based on what they see. Notre Dame certainly thinks the world of him. And Tim, I'm curious, what do you think?
He's a space eater. I mean, that's the first thing that pops out on film is his size. He's for Notre Dame people, he's like, what is he? He looks like a combination of Louis Nix and Stephon Tuitt, rolled into one.
That'd be good if he went to Notre Dame. Exactly. It was a combination of those two.
And Mike, real quick, you just mentioned LSU offered him, and I instantly thought of Glenn Dorsey, who was their All-American defensive tackle, Lombardi Award winner, all those good things during their 07 title run when they beat Freeman and the Buckeyes that year. Dominant inside football player. He quickly reminds me of him, and a couple of great Notre Dame players back in the heyday. Trevor Laws was from Minnesota, who dominated for Notre Dame, and he's got a lot of Laws's thickness, size playing inside. So good football player, and you get a great Catholic League kid down the street there. And I love how we always say down the street in Chicago, but it really is. That is their background or their backyard there. So good football player, big body. He's only going to get a lot stronger, obviously, as he grows, but he'd be a huge, going back to what I said a few minutes ago, this 2024 class is going to be dynamic with the commits they already have. And then you add a recruit like Scott into the mix inside, which Notre Dame does not get 300-pounders to come in and dominate on day one. So, really exciting.
So the listings on the On3 profiles, we take those very seriously. We do not like, someone says they're whatever. We like to very much verify. This young man is listed at 6'5", 310 pounds, and he's going in his junior year. And Tim, he doesn't look like he carries any bad weight.
No, I agree. The picture of him with the golden throne, Yeah, I mean, he's a good-looking guy. Looks great in the pictures that he had at the barbecue on the unofficial there. No, I mean, just the way he runs, he carries 300 pounds, very nice, and for a 6'5" guy, and strong, he's going to be exciting to watch, and I always go back when we talk these 2024 guys, Mike. It's a sophomore. It's like I've coached sophomores, and this guy's a 15-year-old guy making plays like this already. It's exciting to see where he's going to be in the next few years, because these kids going to just keep developing strength, speed, all those good things that come with it.
I was just going to say one final thing on him. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, a couple of live shows back, I made a comment about, can Justin Scott play outside? Because I thought I heard that. And now that we're talking about how he doesn't carry any extra weight, I think that's where I got it, was watching this film and being like, he could maybe play defensive end, because he just looks he looks like a very lean 310 pounds, which is speaking of oxymorons, it's probably an oxymoron, but he doesn't look as Lewis Nix-esque. He looks, to your point about a Lewis Nix, Stephon Tuitt hybrid sort of, I don't know. And again, I have since realized that I don't believe that he can play outside, but that's probably where I got that from.
He's all inside. Let him play inside and just eat up blocks for all these fast, unbelievable linebackers that they're loading up with as well. So let those guys run.
Yeah.
Last thing.
Yeah.
There is let's talk about this. Notre Dame is in South Bend, Indiana. It has to repeat nationally. So when we call Chicago down the street back or whatever, and there are big time talents in Chicago that also go to a profile school with a famous alumni of that high school that also played for your football team. There's just so much that lines up here. Notre Dame, you got to go get this one. Jaden Osbury made so much sense for LSU, right? Goes to high school on LSU's campus. His dad played at LSU, all those things. It's LSU, you got to go get this young man. And they weren't able to for Notre Dame. You've got to get Justin Scott. I mean, you pull out the stops. You got to go get this young man.
Real quick on that, Mike. 2024 is. I mean, there's a handful of Chicago guys that are elite, correct? As in compared to past years.
Yeah. So Notre Dame's offered 3 players in the state of Illinois for 2024 class. They've got Cam Williams committed, the 4-star receiver from Glen Bard South and Glen Ellen. They've offered Scott, obviously, and then Marquise Lightfoot from Chicago Kenwood Academy is an edge in that class. So it's definitely a really good class, but only 3 offers so far in the area.
Yeah. Those are – Glen Bard South is probably 15 minutes from St. Ignatius too, if not closer. It's on the North Shore of Chicago. It's a little west. There's probably somebody listening to this that lives on the North Shore of Chicago right now. They can correct me, but it's all the same general area. All right, we will head into a couple of questions before we wrap up here. So, Mike, would you like to grab one or have me read one out loud? There we go. Yeah, good.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So, David Solomon asked for our podcast audience. Jaden Thomas seems to be the real thing, while it still is a question of whether Deion Colzie is or not. That was phrased as a question, but I think that is a statement is correct. I know that what we've seen. So Thomas, I don't know his exact height. Maybe Mike, you can pull up his profile really quickly.
6'1".
Okay. 6'1". Yeah. I was going to say 6'1", 6'2". Colzie is 6'4". So body type wise, Colzie is your boundary guy. That being said, on Friday, when we were able to watch part of the practice from scrimmage, it was Jaden Thomas that was the number 1 at the boundary. So do with that what you will. He was out on Saturday. I believe he was on the bike. I was primarily watching defense while Tyler Horka was watching offense, but I believe that was what he was doing. He was back yesterday, full uniform, not in a red jersey or anything. So I don't think there's anything to worry about there. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're talking stock up, stock down, Jaden Thomas stock is rising. Deion Colzie stock is not. And I'm hesitant to take really a practice and a half to judge Deion Colzie, but he just, frankly, he looks a little bit less athletic, a little less twitchy, kind of, sort of. I'm not a wide receiver expert by any means, but that's kind of my initial thought on him, I guess. That doesn't mean that Colsey can't break out. Like Notre Dame's had these boundary receivers that have like Javon McKinley, like his 4th or 5th year, like didn't really play at all until that. Like it's not, don't write Deion Colsey off, but again, stock up, stock down. I think Jaden Thomas' stock is rising, even though he's not maybe your prototypical boundary receiver. Tim, I don't know if you want to comment any further on that from what you've read or watched. Or Mike.
I will, if that's okay, real quick. So both of those guys, Georgia kids, so I covered them.
Yeah, that's true.
Know they're very well. Ashton, you nailed it. Jaden Thomas was always very twitchy athlete, but he struggled with catching the ball cleanly. So if that's something that he's added to his game and cleaned up his route running ability, there's a reason that Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State and all those big time schools offered him. A fantastic athlete. Personally, I thought he was going to be a safety at the next level, but it seems like he's settled in pretty well at receiver. And again, safety just because his body type, he's 6'1", probably 205, 210. He's a thicker kid.
Sounds right.
Just his size and athleticism and range and twitching. I thought he was going to be a safety, but seems to have settled in at receiver pretty well. And Colsey, bigger bodied, faster than he is, quick, strider, all those kind of typical, things we would say about a boundary guy. But once he gets it and really catches his stride, no pun intended, Deion Colsey will be a freak as well.
No, I was going to say the same thing. Sometimes, and it's a rush with Notre Dame this year because of the the numbers at wide receiver. We think everyone should be playing in that group, but man, so I was on the message board today chatting with a couple of people about this. Like sometimes just let a guy develop. He's been there 1 year. Let him develop. Some guys just need that a little extra seasoning. I mean, not everyone comes in and plays as a freshman or sophomore. It's rare. So let him develop. And he's got so many skills. What is he? Top 100 player. Something's going to happen. If not, these 24 guys with Cam Williams, they're all going to be flying in pretty soon and hit the ground running, and some of them may not pan out. So just take a pause sometimes and let these guys develop. And he's got a brand new wide receiver coach. Let's see what he does with him.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yep. All right. Actually, I'm going to make one quick comment on Jaden Thomas. He was the special teams player of the day yesterday for Notre Dame. So he's also making an impact in that respect. All right. Back to recruiting for this last question here. So Josh Buffo, the motivational business banker. Interesting. I'd love to know more about that. He asked, are we out for Ronan Hannoven? We offered a 3-star wide receiver today. Mike, any update on that situation? I'll just turn it over to you immediately.
Does Josh kind of look like Ian Book?
Yes, he does. I thought about that. Yes, Josh, you do look like Ian Book.
Or at least you do in the picture, bro. I mean, are they out for Ronan Hannoven? If he commits to Clemson, I would say yes. So we'll see. Offered 3-star receiver. Let me pull up Lions film real quick.
What was his first name again? Sorry.
Tayshawn,
yes.
Tayshawn.
I'll say while you're pulling that up, Greg Flamong, who does some videos for Irish Sports Daily, posted a clip of him earlier, and his route running abilities, oh my God.
Yeah.
They are wild. And again, I'm not going to act like I'm like a route running expert by any means, but my jaw was on the floor, just like how quick and like how he's making guys, like defenders are like falling over trying to keep up with him. Yeah. I'll pass it back. Tim or Mike, if you want to comment.
Yeah, he's a really good player. Someone in the staff's been keeping an eye on for a while. On3 actually is very high on him. So go ahead and screenshot this.
It's a fair point.
You'll see 24/7 rivals. Go ahead and bump this young man eventually. ESPN probably will, in 3 years when it's too late. But yeah, On3 loves him. Top 200 player nationally, top 30 receiver. 6'2", 165. He's lean, but yeah, he's very good receiver. Washington is considered the team to beat right now, but guys, I'm just gonna say read Lucky Charms tonight for folks. $1 for 1 year, blueandgold.com.
I will say the On3 numbers at 28. Mike and I have talked about this 100 times. Notre Dame always has great success with these receivers between the 25s and 35s in the position groups. Go back and look, everybody, where a lot of the wide receivers Notre Dame has had that are playing in the NFL. They're all ranked in that similar mold. So he's a good football player. I watched his film today. You're right, outstanding route runner. He's just not a speed guy, just going to run vertical. He's running outs, cuts, all kinds of good stuff on his film. Some quick screens, breaking tackles. He was a lot faster than I expected watching him when you see him not ranked by anybody other than on 3. So he's a solid football player.
Absolutely. All right, we'll take this one more question. So Antoine Cuthbertson, asks any additional updated news on Kenny Minchi beyond the offer. So if you are unfamiliar, Kenny Minchi is committed to Pitt right now in Notre Dame. He's a quarterback. Notre Dame offered him is it last week, Mike? All my days are messed up in my head. I have literally no idea what day it is or when things happened. It was about a week ago-ish, 2 weeks ago, something like that. Yeah, so you can see podcast audience. Mike just popped his profile up on the screen. So 4-star recruit, which is just inside of that 4-star mark, ranked number 394 nationally, 21st quarterback according to consensus. On 3 is a little higher. So 276 nationally, number 14 quarterback. He's out of Pope John Paul II in Tennessee, which is actually where Golden Tate went to high school. Mike, I will turn it over to you for any additional insight if there is any.
Not a ton right now. Notre Dame's working on him, and this was to be expected, unless the kid grew up dreaming to go with Notre Dame. The expectation was that August is a dead period. He's not going to be able to visit. And when I say dead period, it's just no face-to-face contact between the coaches and the recruits. Right. So Notre Dame's playing the long game here. They're also talking to other quarterbacks. The board is, I would say, it is fairly wide open. So nothing really new there, but I think one good way to end the show is just mention Josh. Josh says he's better looking than Ian. No, so no offense to Ian Book. If you're watching this, Ian Book, sorry.
All right. On that note, we will wrap up here. As always, make sure before you hop off, you hit the thumbs up, subscribe. And Mike talked about this too. His Lucky Charms piece and just also all of our premium content is on blueandgold.com. It is just $1 for a year. So make sure you take advantage of that before it goes away. Check all that out. We'll have some additional fall camp updates. We won't have access to a full practice for a little while, but you can still glean some stuff from what we're writing, having 3 to 4 people at practice, depending on the day. And then also, good call, Mike. Mike just popped up on the screen. We still have issues of our football preview magazine available. So this has kind of like the encyclopedia for Notre Dame football. I know Tim refers to it as his yearbook. It's literally anything and everything you want to know about the team, feature-wise, roster-wise, position, depth chart-wise, all of that stuff. You can head to, I believe it is, blueandgoldonline.com. bluegoldonline.com. And you can get a copy for just $14.95. So make sure you do that and make sure you sign up for our web stuff, and we will be back next week. Have a good one.